One of the things, has anybody read The Surrender Experiment? I mean, it's not like it's a new book. It's been out for a long time. Anybody read it? No one's read The Surrender Experiment? Oh my gosh, Nikki, you need to read that book. It is by Michael Singer. No one's read it? Ken, you read it? Oh my goodness, yeah. So he wrote, what did you say?
Untethered Soul.
Right, he wrote, that's his second book. So The Untethered Soul is his second book. The Surrender Experiment actually is really good because if you've read Untethered Soul, it actually kind of explains a lot. I actually think The Surrender Experiment's a little bit better. Only reason I do is because he really explains like why he started listening to the voice in his head, started recognizing how he could never calm it down, started recognizing like what voice was he willing to follow. So I want you to just think about something. I want you to look at this word right here, and that is negotiate. I want you to think about all the areas of your life that you're negotiating on. One of the things I appreciated was recently also hearing an interview by Kobe Bryant, right? The late Kobe Bryant. And he talked about the fact that at the beginning of the year, he would set a standard of the goals and the objectives that he had. And that once he had set them and put them in line, he never negotiated against them. They became his standard. They became what he was going to do. He wasn't going to wake up each morning and try to renegotiate a different plan. He wasn't going to renegotiate something completely different. So how many of you are negotiating every single day, right? I mean, you think about it. I do. I watch myself in different areas. I watched myself this morning when I was waking up to exercise. I found myself negotiating. I thought, man, I've made that decision a long time ago. I'm going to exercise. I got up and I exercised, but there are days where you find yourself, I don't know if you're just like me at times, but there's things in our lives where we will negotiate ourselves out of it. We'll do it with food. We'll do it with our nutrition. We'll do it with prospecting. We'll do it with calling leads. We'll do it with calling our sphere of influence. We'll do it with our door knocking. We'll do it with anything in this business. You see it over and over again. And those that seem to make the most money in this business stop negotiating because they know exactly. Here's the problem. We all almost know exactly what to do. There might be a few of you in here who don't know. But I'm going to tell you that majority of you know what you're supposed to be doing. So if you know what you're supposed to be doing, why are you negotiating? Right? We negotiate our time away, right? We take things that we really wanted them in a moment and we negotiate what we want greatest away. Why? Because we're human. Why? Because it's what humans do. Because we try to avoid pain. We try to avoid difficulty. But if you can embrace the pain, the agony, the difficulty, the challenging moments, you will become very wealthy and rich from this business. But not only will you be wealthy and rich from this business, you'll become wealthy and rich in any and every area of your life. And I can promise you, any area of your life that you're not succeeding in at a high level, you are negotiating. That is the fact. If you are not succeeding at a high level in any of the three corridors of your life, whether it be real estate or business itself or money, just take that corridor, the relationships of your life, the ones that are most important, most sacred, and then your health. I'm telling you, if you're not excelling at an extremely high level in any one of those three areas, it is because you are negotiating. Because I can promise you that you know what to do. You know what to do. There's not like sitting here going, well, I'm not sure if I know that I'm supposed to prospect today. But then all of a sudden you wake up the next day and realize you look back on the day before and you realize, man, I only made like 3-4 contacts. So the thing that we have to do is we have to stop negotiating. You have to get really clear on what you want and demand of yourself that you're going to get it and stop negotiating away your future and your destiny. That's what agents do over and over again. It's what humanity does over and over again, is they negotiate their dreams away over and over and over again because their avoidance of work, their avoidance of the pain, the avoidance of the challenge, the avoidance of the difficulty. And if you will not avoid those things, but you'll embrace them, take them on, stop negotiating, stop trying to get an easier way or find an easier way, what will happen is you'll find the way. And every one of you economically in here will be very wealthy from this business. And if you'll stop negotiating with your health will go to a different level. You stop negotiating away certain things in relationships, they will come together what you want them to be. Most of life, in fact, if you read that book, I was listening to a piece of it today, Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment. If you'll just look at a few of the things in there in the very, very beginning, he talks about the fact of how much his life for the first 40 years of it was about resistance, resisting things, fighting against things, all these things that he would try to fight against. And yet the reality is those things still unfolded anyway. So the question is if you know you're supposed to prospect, why are you fighting it? If you know you're supposed to call your sphere, why are you resisting it? If you know you're supposed to do lead follow-up, why are you not doing it? Now you may never figure out why, and you may say, well, I need to have an answer. And I would challenge you that you don't need to have an answer. I would challenge you with the idea that it doesn't matter what the answer is. Some people will try to think that it's something really grand and they got to figure out to the core of why they're resisting. In simple terms of Michael Singer, if you find yourself resisting, you know what he says? Declare, I will not resist that. And then go do it. It's not that complicated, but somehow we will make it so complicated. We will try to make it so difficult, so grandiose, so like instead of asking yourself like why you want the chocolate cake, everyone wants chocolate cake. I think they want chocolate cake. Does everyone want chocolate cake? I like chocolate cake. All right. Vanilla ice cream doesn't give a crap, right? But how often are you going to live your plan? How often are you going to live what you're destined to have? How often are you going to set up and just live the life that you want to have? So much of this business is just based on the fact of stop resisting. I used to say submit to the process. I don't know, maybe it's surrender, whatever word resonates for you, but you know that resistance that we put up. And for some reason, there's lots of things that tie into resistance. So the second thing, though, that I want to bring up in regards to that resistance and that negotiation is to do this, and that is to suspend. I'm just going to put here your beliefs, because sometimes it's whatever you're believing or disbelieving. I often say suspend your disbelief. Well, I don't know if I'm going to set an appointment. Just suspend all of it. Leave it in a little bit of that area where you just haven't quite made a decision. Are you going to make an appointment? Maybe not, maybe so. But the reality is that if you'll suspend your disbeliefs, what will happen is this is what it moves you into. Once you suspend your disbelief, you'll move into action. And the problem with this business or in life in general is there's not enough action. So if you're always thinking like, what's the outcome? What needs to happen here? Well, what if it doesn't happen? Well, what if I do set an appointment? Well, now what? Well, what if I don't? What if I waste all of that time and I don't set an appointment? Well, what if I do set appointments? I don't have time. I'm going out of town. I've got a busy weekend. I'm not going to prospect this week because next week will be better. You will negotiate. You'll have these beliefs that you've ingrained, either deep beliefs or temporary beliefs, and it will eliminate the action. So if you want to improve and you want to increase your daily activity, you have to make sure that you're acting from the standpoint of suspending your disbeliefs. And if you will stop negotiating your activity, you'll suspend your disbelief. This little cycle will happen over and over and over again, that you will live the life that you're destined to live. Show your hands. How many of you want to earn more money? All of you want to earn more money, right? How many of you want better health? All of us. So just recognize, just those two things are so easy to look at, that it is a principle of action. It's a principle of belief. It's a principle of stop negotiating. And all of a sudden you stop negotiating with what you're going to eat or not eat. All of a sudden, magically, you get healthy. Shocker. But you know the answer to all that stuff. You already know. And then all of a sudden you have your suspending your disbeliefs. Well, maybe, you know what, if you just did certain things, you took certain actions and you stopped worrying about the outcome of every single facet of it. Well, do I like listings? Do I like buyers? I don't know if I want to work with my sphere. I don't know if they will want to work with me. Maybe I just won't call them. I'll just mail them. Well, I don't know if I have the money to mail them. Maybe I'll just go knock on their doors. Oh yeah, I heard this thing. I'll do pop buys. Oh, okay. I'll now do, there's so many things that you can negotiate yourself out of doing the activities of this business, that the problem is that when you start negotiating away your future, you start creating beliefs that are not empowering you to move into action. All of a sudden you find yourself getting nothing and doing nothing. And there's not one of you in here that shouldn't be earning well over $250,000 or more a year. And if you're earning less than that, I know what you're doing. You're negotiating away your future. You're putting in yourself into limiting beliefs or disbeliefs, and you are not acting. Because there is no one in this room under these pretense that if you were making 100+ contacts a day, that you were, I mean, you may say a day, yeah, a day. That's what I did. How many of you are less than a year in this business? There's a handful of you in here. 100 contacts a day. That's what I did. I sold 33 homes. You know what 33 homes in today's market would do? The average commission in this company is $10,000. That's $330,000. First year in business. That's what I would have earned if I would have done the same thing today. So tell me why you can't. Why can't you? Because you get a belief system, you start negotiating, and you stop acting. So whether it's 100 contacts, 75 contacts, 50 contacts, 30 contacts, this business does not work if you do not contact people. And if you let your beliefs stop your action, you are dead. You will never make it in this business, or you'll just kind of meander down the road of real estate. And maybe because the market's a little good, you might find someone who buys with you and you'll throw a deal out, every month or two, and you'll survive. But as I said last week, we only survive in this business by cutting expenses. The only way you thrive in this business is you personally grow. And that's how it works and how it always will work. So as you move through your career, do yourself the favor to take a step back and recognize that if you really want to achieve everything that you want, then take a step back and say, man, what am I negotiating away? Do you realize, Taylor, that 3 hours a day, that most agents will lose all their dreams, never achieve them, never accomplish them, just because they are unwilling to prospect 3 or more hours a day? Ask yourself, last week, did you prospect truly 15+ hours, you personally? If you didn't, I'm just telling you, you're throwing away your dreams. Let's just have it, let's be honest. You're allowing 3 hours of prospecting consistently to prevent you from driving the car you want to drive, live in the home you want to live in, have the money you want in the bank, have the dollars that you want in your investments, to be able to buy the additional properties, to be able to go on the vacations you want to go on. And it's all because you negotiated away 3 hours of prospecting on a daily basis. So let's not kid ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves thinking that it's anything greater than that. And if you do all of that and still aren't having success, then there's a skill set issue. Then that means you need to role play. It means you need to practice. You need to master what to say. Because if you put the combination of the right skills with the right disciplines and the right mindset and stop negotiating away, there's nothing in this business you cannot accomplish. April, please.
Is it a thought or a physical action, or what accompanies a negative belief for you? What's the next step?
So I've always done this. It's a great question. So you're asking me, like, so people, I know there's people on Zoom listening, but the question is, when I get a negative belief, how do I handle it? So for me, it's interesting. I first start off here with asking I just started a new journal right over there. And I started off with Heather. I don't know where Heather came from, but April. All right. But what I started off with is I started the very first page this morning. See, right next to the cans, I started writing on, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. I wrote down, I believe in God. I believe in hard work. I believe in love. I believe in giving up my heart. I believe in unconditional love. I wrote all these things just this morning of what I believe. So for me, when I find that my beliefs are not in alignment with what I want it to be, then I would say I've created the habit of stepping back and say, okay, what do I want my beliefs to be? Because what I've realized that you can change them. So the problem is that some of you really believe you can't change your beliefs. And I would just say, if it's not in this room, I can just tell you most of humanity believes you can't. But if you can change your religion because of what you believe, if you can change your politics based on what you believe, and heaven forbid if you ever changed your, quote, mind in politics or religion, man, you are condemned in this world today, because somehow when you were 16 years old or 18 or 21 years old, you had one belief and you changed it to another. How dare you change your beliefs? Shocker, you can change them. Did you know that, Mike? You can change your beliefs. So the thing is, for me, April, is that I'm sitting here always checking, are my beliefs in alignment with what I ultimately want? Right. So I'm always asking that question, right? What do I believe if no one told me what I'm supposed to believe? I want to know the answer to that, Rebecca. If no one told me what to believe, what do I believe? What do you believe? That's a really important question, I think, to ask yourself, because a lot of people never ask it. So that's the first thing. I want to know what I believe. Now, if my beliefs aren't getting me what I want, I need to recheck them. But maybe I'm saying to myself from a place of limitation, like, I don't know if I'm going to set an appointment, or I don't know if I believe prospecting works, or I don't know if anything's going to come from my sphere. I mean, it could be all these limiting beliefs also, right? So I'm going to check them and go, hold on a second here. What's limiting me? Do I believe I'm worth this? Should I be earning this? Should I have this money? Should I have this success? Man, I've never had this success. And then people you watch sabotage their success. So the thing that's interesting is that you really got to pay attention to what you believe, because if you don't know what you believe, well, I can tell you probably will just fall into the gap or into the rut of believing what everyone else believes. In fact, if you're on my Instagram, I just posted something from TD Jakes, and he talked about the fact of, if you don't basically have the courage into the beliefs of yourself, then you're going to fall into someone else's plan. You're going to fall into someone else's path. You're going to fall into all of these other avenues that are not going to be in alignment with what you really do believe. So I think there's a checks and balances first and foremost. But if there's a limiting belief, then I'm going to sit there and say, okay, can I declare a new belief? But if I was to go down this path first, I would say, I know my beliefs make me give me thoughts, right? So if you ask yourself, if you're taking some notes, and this isn't a new concept for many of you in here, but I just want to remind you that if you have a belief, you then begin to have thoughts. So let's just say, I believe that prospecting works. Are you going to have good thoughts or bad thoughts? Good. If you believe that prospecting doesn't work, Taylor, what are your thoughts going to be about it? They're going to be that thoughts, right? Negative. I mean, I'm not, and you say, well, this seems so elementary. I know, shocking. I know it is, but the fact is that no one seems to figure it out. They don't realize that the stream of thoughts, which is where I believe you're talking, and tell me if I'm wrong, but all of a sudden you have this bad belief, your thoughts start going down this path, you're starting to renegotiate, you start having all this negativity, you start thinking and doubting. Well, what do you do there? We're going to get there, but just realize that your thoughts then lead to the way that you feel. So if you believe that prospecting works, you feel, you have beliefs that it works, then you have thoughts that you know that it works. How will you feel about prospecting? Excited. Yeah, you'll be great. You'll be really excited about it, right? Versus if you thought, well, I don't think it works, and well, I don't even know why I'm doing it, but I'll do it anyways. How are you going to feel when you're doing it? How are you going to feel when you're thinking about it? How are you going to feel when your beliefs, when you're just thinking about your beliefs about it? You're going to feel awful. You're going to do everything you can to resist, and you're going to renegotiate. So just remember that it's such a critical question, really, April, what you're talking about, and we'll get to the end of it. But then again, here's how we act. But think about this. If you believe prospecting worked, you felt really good about it, you thought, man, I know it'll work, and you convinced yourself that it was going to work, and then how would you feel about it? Then you would act on it. And then what happened is, I can just tell you the results would happen. That's what would occur. The results would occur because you got your mindset right, your beliefs right, your thoughts right, your feelings right, your actions right, and the results would be incredible. Now, the argument is, can you do it backwards? Can you get your actions right? You feel better, your thoughts are better, you change your beliefs. Of course you can do all things like that. But the reality is that the declaration of a new belief is such a powerful, powerful statement. The declaration of a new belief. I believe prospecting works. I remember I used to not like prospecting. So I remember I came up with a new affirmation, a new declaration, a new belief. And I remember I'd say, I love prospecting. And every day I set an appointment, every single day. So the question is, did it happen every day? No. But I can tell you, it happened a lot more days than the days that I kept saying to myself, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to prospect. I mean, I'm so sick of it. I was going to get in real estate. I didn't realize I was going to be a telemarketer. And I just thought that it was going to be selling homes. And I didn't realize that I had to actually go talk to people, knock doors, pick up a phone. And yet you realize really quick that this is a people business. It's not even really about real estate. So again, what are your beliefs? Now, when I go down that path and all of a sudden, even if I have the path that I know that prospecting works, but I start thinking about something different, this is my deal. And this is the one thing that I can say that I believe that, not that I've done it perfectly, but that's my closest sign of a stop sign. But I truly make a declaration, April, of stop. And then I say these words. I do not believe that. And it may seem simple, but I declare what I don't believe. I do not believe that I cannot, I don't believe that I can't set an appointment. I do not believe that. And then I declare my new belief again. I believe. And what I've realized over these many years, April, is I remember going on a listing appointment in Highland Park, out over there by Sugar House Park. And I remember going to that appointment, and I had made the declaration that I was going to take 7% listings. And I can remember that I realized that my mind is a stage. And you can only play one act on that stage at a time. And so I would, when I was going to the listing appointment, I would say, I take 7%, I take 7%, I take 7%, I take 7%. And the moment I would stop saying it, what was interesting, do you know what came into my head? No, you don't. No, you don't. No. I take 7. Then I just got it shortened to where, as I'm getting out of my car and I'm walking up to the door, and I just keep saying 7. I will take this listing at 7%. I walk in, I go through the home. In the back of my head, even as I'm going through the home, I'm saying 7. And I keep repeating it over and over and over and over again. And even as I sat down at the table, I found myself saying, he's not going to. No way. I remember it, sitting at the table with this guy. And I said, I can remember saying to myself, no, right? We talk about this negotiation. Usually we're trying to negotiate ourselves out of something. I was trying to negotiate myself into something. See, so much of actually earning, like I've talked to Evan about earning $1 million, isn't about the fact of just earning it. He has to actually convince himself and negotiate with himself that he believes that he can do that. It's not just make calls. It's not just prospect. It's not just knock on a door. It's so much more than that. It's a mental decision as much as it is a physical decision. So I remember sitting there, and I remember going through my presentation, and I remember saying, okay, are you ready to take care of some paperwork? And then he had his readers on, which I thought he was so old, but I now have a pair in my own pocket. And I remember him pulling them out and lifting them down and going, this says 7%. I thought most people were at 6. And I still, man, I had said it. April, I had said 7%, no less than probably 1,000 times at this point in my own head. And it was so easy, Brenda Lee, when he said, I thought it was 6. And I looked at him with just stone cold, no emotion. I said, it's 7. We stared at each other for a moment of just absolute discomfort. You're going, someone say something. You stared at me. Like, I think waiting to see if I'm going to say something different, right? The first to speak is the one who buys, right? They say, so they say. I said nothing. We stared at each other. He went, okay. And he signed. And I have to tell you that day, it changed the whole format. It wasn't just about the 7%. It was about changing the whole pathway of how I deal with myself when I'm doubting myself, or how I deal with myself when I'm wondering whether or not it will work out, or whether or not I can do whatever I'm trying to do. And so I go back to like what I wrote in my journal today, guys. When was the last time you just simply, what if you just wrote down, just in these areas of your life, what do you believe in regards to your health? What do you believe in regards to finances or money? And what do you believe in regards to the most important relationships of your life? Those relationships, right, would be as much as from God to your spouse or partner. It could be to your children. But what do you believe? Because the challenge is that so many people live a life based on what everyone else believes, and it isn't really what you believe. And even though you may believe the very same thing that you were taught as a child, which is fantastic, but I just would go back to asking yourself, is that what you believe? Is it really what you believe, or is it just like, well, it's just easier to believe that so that there's not so much contention. Man, you'll lose your soul doing that, guys. And you will lose yourself if all of a sudden every day you're living someone else's beliefs. So whatever you choose to believe, believe it. But let it be a conscious, like an awakening for you as to what you believe, not just something that you sit there and go, well, my mom believed that, so that's what I believe. And her mom believed the same thing, so now that's what I believe. And at the end, it still may be what you believe. But don't just believe it because it'll be tough. Don't believe it just because it'll be difficult. Don't believe it just because everyone else will put other pressure on you, right? Peer pressure. What is that? Oh, people forcing you, pushing you into beliefs that aren't even yours. But you kind of just go with it because you don't want to be a disruptor. You don't want to make people upset. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. Think about it, right? Yeah, a sheep, right? So, in wrapping up, guys, and did that answer your question? I mean, that for me, it is literally a massive no. I do not believe that. I believe, and whatever that new belief is.
It's not just your mind, you're actually physically writing it down.
I'm writing it down. So sometimes I'm screaming it in my car. Sometimes I meditate on it. But whatever I want my new beliefs, I mean, there's so much research that is done in regards to reshaping our beliefs just based on meditation, right? Meditating new pathways for the life that we're destined to live for each one of us. You guys, at the end of the day, I want you to be independent. I want you to be able to think on your own. I want you to be able to negotiate with yourself for what you ultimately want your life to be. But most people are negotiating away their lives. They're negotiating away their dreams. They're negotiated all away for just simple things like 2-3 hours of prospecting on a daily basis. And all of a sudden, because they're not willing to just do those basic things, they don't drive what they want to drive, live where they want to live, travel where they want to travel, invest where they want to invest. And then they start focusing on things like, well, the market, or I pay the company too much, or my manager, or the other agents, or the inventory, or the interest rates, or the mortgage programs, or the appraiser, or blah, 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 blah. Because they negotiated away their future when they should have been doing the very things, the action versus the inaction or the lack of action because of what they negotiated. So any thoughts, comments, or John, and then we'll wrap up.
Well, ultimately, what I hear you saying is we need to ask ourselves, is this belief serving me? Is it helpful? And what do I really want to believe?
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, there's simple things like people always tell me what I'm supposed to believe, right? You got religion telling you have God telling, or maybe God is telling you, but I'll just leave that for you to decide. But there's all the stuff of religion, there's God, there's all this other stuff, right? But I just ask a simple question. It's a pretty simple one that's helped me, like, based on what I believe, right? Does this bring me closer to God or further away? And whatever that is my question that I'm most interested in. Not what someone else told me I should believe, not one else who told me what my rules should be, not one else who told me what my commandments should be. What do I believe? And I've realized that as I ask better questions, develop stronger beliefs, deeper levels of thought, better feelings towards whatever I'm doing or pushing away from the things I don't. And so I've asked this question, I've made this statement for years now, and that is, people say, "Wait, what are you doing?" Oh, I'm just figuring out how I want to live my life. Oh, wait, what do you mean? Well, I'm just figuring out how I want to live my life. I know it may not be what you thought my life should be, but this is how I want to live my life. You know, one of the things I've recognized, just one second, Nikki, is, you know, people talk about midlife crises. Well, I've had midlife crises, guys, in my 20s. I've had midlife crises in my 30s, in my 40s, and now I'm sure that there will be ones in my 50s. And I remember in my 30s when I went to a counselor, and I remember he said, "Oh, life is moving so much faster now." Oh, okay. He said, yeah, people are having midlife crises much earlier. He said, well, let me tell you what you do. You need to go buy a really fast car. Check, I've already done that. I have that. He's like, okay. Well, you need to go on a great vacation. I just got back from Italy and Paris. That was pretty great. Okay, well, you need to, you start going through these things. And it was interesting. But then I met someone else who said this to me. A midlife crisis is nothing more than nothing more, nothing less than really doing this. And that is a restructuring of your life. Now, here's the better question. Can you restructure your life responsibly or irresponsibly? That's entirely up to you. You see people who restructure and having a midlife crisis, restructuring their life, and their life is absolutely a big fireworks stand of crazy. And then there's people who restructure their lives in a very responsible fashion and make their life and create a life that they ultimately want. So remember, that's entirely up to you as you go through that. But you're going to have midlife crises unless you're just completely unaware your whole life. So how will you restructure your life? Responsibly or irresponsibly? That is entirely up to you.
I was actually going to say pretty much the same thing. I think people's beliefs change as you go through life based off of experiences. So what you believe now in 5 years based on what happens in life, you can choose to be a victim or victorious over, when your beliefs change.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and right, it's like, are you going to go through life conscious, aware, awakened, right? So, that's why we use these words, right? Be conscious, be mindful, be aware, awaken. So that as you're moving through your life, you start to see what's going on and you're able to say, okay, wait a second here. Wait a second, what do I believe? I mean, here I am at 50 years old, writing in my journal on the front page of it, first day of this new journal, and I'm writing in it and I'm saying what I believe. Well, wouldn't you think at 50 years old, I probably figured out what I believe? I would think, but the reality is, no, not ultimately, because I'm always going to be asking the question, what do I believe to create a better life that I am destined to live? A life by design, a life that is purposeful, a life that I designed because I made it so. Yes, a combination of the people around me and hopefully a little help from the guy upstairs. That is my hope, that the combination of that I can live the life that I ultimately want to live. And I wish the very much the same for you. That is the reality for all of us. Okay, good.
I just have to share, submit to the process. It's
That's right.
My favorite mantra, because even being in the business for umpteen years, more than most of you have been alive, you have to submit to the process. This is a job. If I am not out on an appointment or taking a listing, I am in my office calling. And that $100 or $100, 100 contacts a day is not uncommon.
No.
And you have to, this is a job.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the submit to the process, because those that stay will be champions.
They do. They
And
do.
I love that.
And you see them, and again, they may figure it out if they're not here at some point in their life, but the reality is, as you know, Brenda Lee, is most of them, if they do leave, they never still figure it out.
Or they come
Which is really bizarre to me, is that they leave and they think somehow there's some way they're gonna save, make. But man, this is as you know, firsthand, many of you know, you're here, right? It's a very special environment to help people excel in. Yeah, we've gone through really difficult times. Yes, we've gone through crashing markets that you were there. Yes, we've gone through COVID. Yes, all these different things. Here we are back gathering as groups. Tomorrow is the summit, right? Right. And back doing those things. I'm like so excited to have that. So just, what, guys, just remember, so much of what you want your life to be is based up here. Again, easy to talk about, really easy to talk about, Taylor. I don't know if you knew that. It's pretty easy to talk about. Right? Talk's cheap. But if you want to do it, that's the real work will be done. But I can promise you, each one of you can do it. I promise you can. Okay? All right. Evan.
I was just going to mention that when I was back in the military days, believe it or not, I was running around 2 miles in about 11 minutes.
Okay.
And so they put me in charge of all the people who are about to leave the military because they couldn't pass their PT tests. All I simply did was I reconditioned their belief in where their time frame was. And so I'd run beside them and actually lie to them about their time. Is further than what they thought. And they would come in on time every single time, just because I just changed their belief.
Yeah. There was a great coach, I can't remember the story, but it sounds just like it, where he had it to where because this guy would kind of poop out before at the end of the race. And so he extended the length of the race by, who knows how many yards or a half a mile or whatever it was. And then the guy finished strong and didn't even realize that he was finishing the race. All the practice and the training was with a finish line much further than the actual reality of what the real finish line was.
I love that. That's exactly what I
Right?
did.
So same principle, which I love. That's fantastic. All right, guys. All right, let's go. Let's do some affirmations, rock and roll. Thanks for being together. So good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. Good day.